Hello and welcome everyone to the round one NRL Supercoach Hub round one wrap. I'm here with Mr. Charity this week, and there were 6 games this round. Thanks everyone for coming. See you next time. I was a bit like that. How are you going, Mr. Charity?
Mate, I've seen better weeks, that's for sure. I've got the red on to represent the hell week that we just went through. Have you ever experienced a round this bad?
No, I can think of a couple where I've had sub-1,000 scores and it's been pretty ordinary for everybody, but I don't think I've got one that's close to this. There were some high-scoring players that literally nobody was touching, and there was so many 20s and 30s just from all guys that so many people owned. It was absolute nightmare. I'm not sure I've seen something quite like this, especially in the most important round to start the year. Hey, so we've got a lot of decisions to make for this round 2.
That's for sure. That's for sure. No, look, it was a tough watch. Even the games I felt were a bit of a tough watch at times, just very error riddled. It just watching players make simple mistakes. It kind of just felt like another trial match. But you know, that's week 1. You've got a bit of rust to it. Hopefully we'll see things bounce back. And I think that the number one thing to take from this podcast today is going to be don't panic. You know, you built your team for a reason. This was terrible across the board. After next week, if we have those same guns scoring 20s, maybe we can start to panic a little.
Then we sign a petition to Supercoach to say, hey, can we have 6 trades this week and then just go back to normal?
Yeah, exactly.
But there was a couple of injury concerns for this week. Not too many crazy ones, but just enough to keep it relevant. So we had guys like Josh Adokar going off in the Eels Bulldogs game with an AC joint injury. That might be a couple of weeks, depending on its severity. We had Mitch Moses stay on, but he had a groin problem in that same game, and his points basically fell off a cliff and just stopped. Kieran Foran was ruled out late and ended up Tom Weaver coming in. Wade Egan, mate, how sad is it that Wade Egan can't stay on the park no matter how much, no matter what it is, really?
It's one of those things where it's similar to like Turbo and Pappy now, where it's you just want him to stay on the field and you want him to play. He's a great player, a good super coach option as well, but just so sad to see him get injured.
Yeah, it's not fun. I really feel for the bloke. Hope he comes good. Kurt Capewell in that same game looked in a fair bit of discomfort from a rib cartilage injury. We had Talakai and Miller Tyler pick up a couple of ankle concerns. Blake Laurie was ruled out late. So we've possibly got a couple of guys from the Dragons coming back and moving around that forward pack in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. But
Lemuelu as well from the Dolphins, dislocated knee. And the news about Tommy Gilbert as well, getting that blood clot on the plane back over. So now he can't have his ACL surgery for 3 months. That's another poor guy that just can't catch a break.
Yeah, I really feel for him. It is starting to feel like a reverse Pappenhausen. It's just terrible back-to-back injuries, and you've got all our best wishes for him as he undergoes this long journey to get back to full fitness and up and running again, because we love Tommy Gilbert and we want to see him playing his best football.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. There's probably a couple of injuries and suspensions and stuff that I haven't covered there, but I guess we'll get to them when we get to the games. Yes. Anything you wanted to touch on before we started, or shall we jump into the Knights and the Raiders?
Let's get stuck in, because I think a lot of the stuff I really want to talk about is going to be at the end of this podcast. So let's get stuck into the games.
Yeah, all right. So we had, well, I won't say the first of many, because there was kind of already a couple of upsets in Vegas. But the first for this week, round 1, part 2, whatever you want to call it, Knights kind of flogged the Raiders flogged the Knights. Sorry, I can't even say it right. 28-12. A bit of everything happening in this game. Hey, so I wasn't overly impressed by the Knights. I think they were just expecting to be the team that they were at the back end of the year, and just went out and weren't expecting to be too challenged by a team that a lot of people had down as really falling off. And I mean, the Raiders look good. Put some points on them.
I mean, for a New South Wales Cup side, practically half of that team, it's completely new, or not completely, but very new back line. You got a new halves pairing. It just kind of felt like all the writing was on the table, there for you to say, yeah, no, Knights are going to hammer them. That's a big part of the reason why I went Ponga over other people, because I didn't have a good feeling about Ponga, but I was like, I'm too scared not to own him coming up against this Raiders back line sweeping out the edge. But Raiders were really, really impressive. There were a few players that sort of like stand out off the back of that game. But yeah, just an all-round really good team performance.
Yeah, I think the Knights tried to put too many players on the field that were trying to have their own idea and move the ball around in their own way. They had Cogger, they had Hastings, they had Gamble, they had Ponga. They had so many people just competing, and it just looked too unorganized for me.
It kind of felt like Raiders hit them hard and they just didn't know how to respond. And because no one was really responding well, there were too many errors. Everyone started taking it into their own hands, and it just didn't work to where it needed to.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's jump into some scores. So top score on this was Zach Hosking. A couple of people were talking him up a tiny bit with the news that Elliot Whitehead's out for about 4 weeks with that calf injury. And I mean, he's in his last year and calf injuries can linger. We saw that with Trell last year. So anyone who jumped on and got that 92, well done to you. Really, really good performance. Albert Hopewade, 79 at centre. Do you think Hopewade is going to go to the, named on the wing next week? Or what do you think is going to happen when Seb Chris comes back in?
I honestly, I can't pick what's going to happen in that team. You'd think that Rapana would either stay at fullback, or Chris would go to fullback and Rapana would go to the wing. Maybe Hopewade keeps that centre spot, but Nick Kotrick had a pretty decent game. So do you drop him? Yeah, maybe. Chris could go into the wing, centre, fullback. Could probably even go to 5'8". There's just so many different options there, and it's rookie. So I have no crystal ball here.
Yeah, I think it's certainly going to push around a few of those cheap options.
Yeah.
Going down a little bit, Rapana himself scored a 70, kind of didn't do much for that whole game, then got bailed out by that late try and finished on a decent total. Jamal Fogarty did. I mean, there's no kicking meter points for Supercoach, otherwise he would have been on about 1 million. But 63, he was dominating the playmaking, and that kind of hurt Ethan Strange a bit, who only scored 28 points. Did you play Strange in your 17, or were you able to bench him?
No, I benched him. I just think he's going to be one of those players that will, earn cash over the course of the season. He's got the diversity of having CTW and 5'8", so that's fine. I think with Jamal Fogarty, it's amazing to see. I don't think anyone could have predicted this, but Jamal Fogarty, round 1 against the Red Hot Knights at Newcastle, scores more than Hines and Cleary combined at halfback. It's crazy to think that's what happened.
We just don't have the IQ of some of these players who are picking Jamal Fogarty. Hey,
I'll tell you what, one of my friends picked Fogarty, but she did have a sub 800 score, so the rest of the team went to crap. But the Fogarty pick was a good one.
Yeah. We had just below that Hudson Young 61, Tarpanay 59, and then a good one in this week of dire scoring. Morgan Smithies tackle botted his way to 58 in about 69 minutes or something like that. So he's kicked off his break even in fine fashion. He doesn't need to attack. He didn't have any. He just provided the plod machine, and we are here for it at his price.
Yeah, exactly. Really, really good play. It was one of the only reserves I did that actually paid off well, considering I reserved Hines, Drinky, and Satili. The fourth reserve of Smithies pays off well for me. Hudson Young scoring 61 and being sin binned is pretty crazy to see. You'd thought when he got sin binned, you're like, oh, well, that would have been a bad pick if you had picked Hudson Young, but scores above what his break even is. So just crushing it as always. But yeah, Smithy's incredible. Going to most likely be in either my starting or at least on my reserve week in, week out, if you can keep that up.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He's going to not be one of those upper ceiling fancy guys, but he's going to do you a job at least for a good while and make you some really good money if he keeps that spot, even when Horse is back.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving down a little bit, Josh Papali 53, and then Danny Levi. I tell you what, we don't need expensive hookers because Danny Levi can do it all. 45 points. It's only a couple off Grant. He was
Wasn't
pretty
it like
close.
2 points off Grant or something? Grant scored like 46, 47.
Yeah, I think Grant updated to 49, but for a long time, like Levi was ahead, I think. So
too
good. He was scoring about 1 point every 10 minutes for a good while there, but went over for a try. And I mean, his minutes were quite encouraging. I think he played about 58 minutes or thereabouts. And I mean, he's gonna, you'd think, do slightly faster scoring other than that. And like Ethan Strange, he's just going to be somebody that's another Raider that sits in your team, rarely plays, probably apart from that Grant round 4 bye, and then just makes you enough money to move on to someone else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't have to worry about that because I went with pretty much the ultimate hooker pairing of Little and Levi. So I'm pretty set now. It's about the only good decision I made. But yeah, crazy. Good to see him scoring so well. He started off pretty slow, so it was a bit of a worry there. But you're not planning on playing him for long. You'll play him on the other hooker bye weeks. But if you can keep knocking out scores like that, you might actually have to reconsider whether or not you play him. But yeah, good performance.
Yeah, a little bit of, well, I'm not worry, but anyone that picked up Kotrick as a basement, not super enthused by the 25. Xavier Savage 43 with a try. I mean,
didn't Kotrick get a try, or am I misremembering that game? But if Kotrick got a try and scored 25, you didn't?
No, okay. I don't think so. But yeah, so 25. I mean, he's basement price essentially, so it doesn't matter so much. But yeah,
no, not happy with those scores, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Some of those cheapies you just got to watch out for. Anyway, moving over to the Knights now. Tyson Frizzell just gets it done. The last couple of years, after he's managed to stay on the pitch with all those head knocks and some of those niggling injuries, he's been really pushing up towards those upper echelons. Not like the top branch of like your Fafitas and stuff, but he's a really solid scorer these days.
I don't know whether it's like in the team you have the likes of Greg Marju and Kalen Ponga that are very flashy, that it just makes these other players sort of like blend into the background. But, Dane Gagai and Tyson Frizzell seem to always score well, and you don't even acknowledge what they're doing. They're just earning Supercoach points in the background. They're good pod players. They're not players that I necessarily want to have in my team, but if they can keep scoring like that, why not? Even though Gagai scored underneath what his break even is, Frizzell scoring over, great score. Gagai seems to continually knock out 50, 60 plus scores, and it doesn't even look like they're even really doing much on the field. So I don't know what it is, but they're just performing well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, had after Hastings on 60, which probably not many people have, you had Marju and Gaga on 59 and 56, and they didn't really do anything. I mean, if you paid up for them, you're a bit disappointed, but I mean, if they scored 59 and 56 in a game where they really didn't do a lot, that's really encouraging for their floor.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a couple of players like that we're going to touch on throughout the podcast, where, they barely did anything and they've actually got a pretty decent score. It'll be amazing to see once the teams start firing how well they execute.
Yeah. Let me have a look. Who's next? We had Tyson Gamble. I just didn't really like the mixing up that they did between all of these halves or 5/8s or hookers and everything. They were just moving around so much. But yeah, Tyson Gamble managed at 54 out of it. Jake Saifidi got 50. How many minutes did he get? I noticed one of the Saifidi brothers got pretty solid minutes, which were, Jacob Saifidi got 50 minutes, which is a bit of a bump on previous years. Just keep a vague eye on that. I don't think that it might have been affected by Dylan Lucas busting his nose or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, not an exciting pick, but I mean, we've got front row forward problems at the moment.
Yeah, no, of course. You got to keep your eye out on those kind of things. I think there were a couple of really good standout front row forwards, though, that we'll talk about as well. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, somebody who was not standout fullback, but I mean, given some of the other captaincy options, if you got 50 points doubled from Kalen Ponga, you were probably happier than you would have expected at the beginning of the week.
Listen, I left the C on Ponga when I knew I should have trusted my gut and left it on Luke Brooks. And who would have thought we'd be sitting here Sunday saying, damn, I wish I captained Luke Brooks in Vegas.
Oh, I can't believe you did it. It's so good. You predicted it. You thought it'd be higher, but in your genius, you just managed to
called me a madman.
that. You managed to pick that Luke Brooks would score a little bit more than usual, and everybody else would come down. So fair play to you. So good.
Yeah. No, look. When Ponga comes out, scores that 50, you go, damn it, I made the wrong choice. And then you look at the rest of the other captains' choices throughout the week, and you go, damn, I made the right choice.
Tough. It's a funny one. A little bit below that, Kai Pearce-Paul, 43 points in, was it 36 minutes or something? He's going to be such a weapon if he gets 80 minutes at some stage.
Well, I think with the Lucas injury, depending on how long he's out for, that becomes a real serious buy. I was contemplating anyway getting him into my team as I generate just a little bit of cash. But if Lucas is out, I might have to rearrange some things even more than I thought I was going to have to this early to look at bringing him in. It's not my number one priority, but it's there.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to be a star of the future when he lines up at 80 minutes eventually. I picked him up in a dynasty draft for that reason. And I mean, I was reasonably happy with 43 points for him this week when I have Horse suspended on my bench. But yeah, if he's 80 minutes moving forward, I'm going to be very happy with that being filled in.
Yeah, definitely. I was disappointed. I thought I was going to see more out of this, but Bradman Best, he's my CTW1, just scoring 37 points. It wasn't where it needed to be for me. I do believe he's going to have a good year this year, so I am going to keep him. But if I get another 30 or 40 points, I might be looking at some of these other CTW options that have been crushing it around that price, particularly with next week's matchups. There's one that I'm considering, but I don't know if I can do that to myself. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Just not where it needed to be for me.
Yeah, I was a bit upset with Best. I switched Kiraz to Best, and I mean, it didn't end up the worst, but I wanted more than 37 from him. Tuala, very quiet. 20 was the lowest of the scores of the Knights, and then I mean the other two not super relevant at this stage. Overall thoughts on the Knights? I really expected them to win this, but it felt like one of those games where they could be ambushed, but I did not expect 16-point win.
Yeah, no, this is one of those things where it's like you're watching it, you're going, what are they doing? Look, Knights started really slow last year and then just came home hot. I think we're going to see something similar. I think we're going to see it take a while to build up and get to where it needs to be, and then we'll eventually play out where I think we all want it to be. That being said, they could come out next week and absolutely brain it. They know that they're capable. That's the difference from last year. Last year, they were told they're not a top 8 side. They're in line for the spoon, them and the Tigers. After that Tigers Knights game, I think it was round 4 last year. It was one of the worst games I ever watched. And then seeing all of that coming into this year, I think we'll see a better side, but I don't expect things to get better immediately.
Yeah, it could be one of those ones that takes a few weeks. Maybe they're the new Roosters. Maybe they're the guys that need 6 weeks and then they rev up for the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, the next game, another upset. I honestly almost turned the telly off after the Warriors' first 15 minutes or so because I just thought it was going to be a belting, and I didn't expect the Sharks to come back and grind out that win. So fair play to them. Adam Fanua Blake doubters, stick your hand up. I have been humbled. Anyone who did go him, well done. You don't get tons from front row forwards very often, and if you went him, you have been very greatly rewarded. So fair play to you.
It's crazy to see. I mean, he did so well. You look at AFB's 103, the next best front row forward so far before like any of the other updates is Flegler on 72. That's a 31-point difference in the front row forward, which is usually a wasteland for us. Just incredible. Like, hats off to him. The fact that he can continue to level up his game. I think we're not going to see this every week, but you take away the try and I think 2 of his line breaks, and I think he's on something like 60, 70 points. So, like, it's still a great score.
He looked insane when he was running. Like, some of those runs, he was pushing back 3 blokes and they were all upright. Like, it wasn't even like he was angled and bulldozing it. He was just pushing them back. He is one of the top 2 front row forwards in the competition. And Payne Haas better watch out because he's possibly number 1 if he keeps playing like that.
He is him. It's just
he is.
It's just so good. And he gets up after he scores the try and just goes like that. That was too
that's
easy.
It. You guys need to be better. I don't want some more.
And then they came back and they were better, the Sharks. But nonetheless, Adam Fanua Blake was just an absolute gun.
What a star. Yeah, someone else who had another fantastic individual try. Not amazing defense, but Metcalf. How good was that to watch? Just out of nothing, zips through a couple of players on his way to a 70 with that try.
So in our Supercoach Hub Discord server, we do every Thursday night, we do team reviews where everyone sends in their team. Myself and sometimes Rugby League Realm, we go over people's teams together and talk about the options. And I reckon we spent about 20 minutes in that group on Thursday night talking about Metcalf, going, is it a potential option to downgrade Brown and go Metcalf as your 5'8" option? And we were tossing it up, and I played around with it in the actual session and said, you know what, this actually frees up a lot of cash elsewhere. We have a really good feeling about Metcalf. I now wish I went ahead with that. Like, it was, and there were some people in that call that actually went ahead with it, cheering off the back of it. He was incredible, really great to see. I've got really high raps on him as well, so to see him come out and deliver what he's capable of, beautiful to see.
Lovely stuff. Tohu Harris playing really big minutes on his way to 66. He's just a machine. He's just a machine.
Just like how does he keep doing it?
Like, his knees with all the tape and straps and whatever just scare you off, but he just keeps getting it done.
By round 27, he's going to look like an Egyptian mummy. Just the amount of straps that he has on him is just so many bandages. It's crazy, but good on him. It's really good to see Tohu Harris now starting to get the props of what kind of an incredible player he is, because even back in his Melbourne days, he was an incredible player. He just sort of dipped in form a little bit, but now we're seeing him back to exactly where he needs to be. Yep. Sean Johnson as well. He was the second highest scoring halfback of the round. So incredible.
Can I just say, if the second highest scoring player in one of the most important positions of the game is 66, you know you've had a horror week. 66 as the second highest. That is truly almost unfathomable, hey?
The highest is Ben Hunt on 79. Like,
it's just to throw your team in the bin, throw it out the window, and say well done to the people who made their teams 20 minutes before Vegas.
Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah. Mitch Barnett, 57, as well as Ford. One thing I found interesting about Ford is that RTS just kept going short ball to Ford, and it worked for him a couple of times, but he dropped it a few times. Hey, I think we need to see more of trial RTS, not give it to Ford and just wait and bust through the line. Hey.
Yeah. I think he definitely teased us a little bit with what he's capable of doing, and then doesn't come out in that game and perform it. I think next week we'll see a different Warriors. I'm really surprised Warriors didn't win this game. Very, very interesting to see how that played out. But yeah, RTS's performance I wasn't happy with, but it's essentially 46 points in almost all base. So, you can't be too upset with that, especially once he starts getting more of the tackle breaks, gets an attacking stat every now and again. He's going to be performing where you need him to, but not what I wanted in this week of absolute carnage.
Nice. Somebody who was a lot cheaper and scored a little bit better was Tuapiki. If people jumped on him, chucked him in your emergencies, that's a good first up score. And I mean, it just depends on how many price rises you're going to get out of him, hey, whether he gets one or a couple of them, hey.
Yeah, I was very big on not bringing him in. I was telling people, no, don't. Even when he has scored what he scored, like he scored a couple of extra points late, which really bumped him up. But he scored something like he was on 30, and everyone was going, "We need to see more." And it's like that's essentially most likely what you're going to get out of him. And then scores a couple of extra points and proves me wrong mid-chat. I don't think we're going to see as much of a price rise as people want out of him. I could be wrong. He could come out and absolutely brain it next week. But for me, I'm avoiding it. But at 277 in a position where we don't have a lot of cheap options, if you can score 50 for the next 3-4 weeks until Chance comes back, maybe he's an option for you. But I think I'm going to avoid it personally.
Yeah, I think he's one of those options that if you had the guts to get him in round one and he scored a lot better than a lot of our other centre wing options, to be honest. But yeah, I think he's one of those guys who is a prime example of you can wait until the very last second before the price rise for news. And if he does get pushed back, then you can jump on and get 2 or 3 price rises of like 40K plus 40K plus 40K or something, and you're happy, rather than maybe only getting 1 week of like 40 or 50K and then losing him forever. So I think he's more that type of player than one you start with. But anyone who has started with him, not the worst start.
Yeah. I don't have any more to say on that. I just kind of wanted to sigh about it. Yeah. It's just another headache in this position that we don't need. If you have him, great. It should work. I'm not going to waste a trade on him just because you're going to have to waste a trade again to get him out. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. DWZ, quiet game on 40. He looks real dangerous early on. If he starts scoring tries, he'll score well again this year. Just hopefully just take 2 or 3 matches, please, and lose 100K, and then I want to pick you up, please.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah. We got to Wade Egan before. 34 went off. And I mean, depending on his time frame, if it does push out, that might bring Freddie Lussick into the conversation, but it would need to probably be at least like your sort of 5 weeks sort of time frame.
Yeah, exactly. No, look, I'm avoiding that sort of position for the Warriors. He's a good shout when he's on the field, but it's a high gamble play. And I think considering all the cheap options that we have at hooker now that we've seen come out and perform pretty decently, plus the fact that it's not that high of an upside position, I'm not going to waste the cash on that. But yeah, it's tough.
Yep. All right, moving over to the Sharks. Mulatalo and Talakai were the ones that picked up slight injury worries, but were the 2 top scorers for the Sharks, 87 and 75. Their backliners did reasonably well overall. Ramian also rounding it out on 61. But yeah, I was more, when I was looking at the Sharks, I wasn't so much looking at their outside backs to buy with round one, but I was very shocked to see their minutes rotations for their middles. What did you make of theirs?
I don't get it. I mean, to be honest, I was too busy looking at why Hines wasn't getting the ball, but and then they pass it to him and he knocks it on, and I go, oh, that's why. Yeah, look, I didn't pay too much attention to the middles because I'm avoiding Sharks middles with a 4-forward bench pretty much. It's not something that I'm super keen on. We saw some pretty poor performances from most of them. Nickera, as always, scored pretty well, and McInnes tackled his ass off like he normally does. Yeah, I don't know. What were your thoughts on the middle rotation?
I was just really surprised to see that as the captains, Finucane and McInnes didn't get more. McInnes 40 minutes and Finucane 19. It was not on my bingo card. So you had guys like Tommy Hazelton playing 40 over Rudolph, who played 31. And then also Jack Williams and Oregon Kafusi playing 47 and 44 respectively. I mean, it might work really well to keep some of their big guys fresh and really impactful, but I was not expecting those guys to play 40 plus minutes. I was expecting more like 25, 30.
Yeah, it's just it's starting to get like Ricky Roulette. If this kind of stuff continues, just picking who's going to be playing where. I think this is affected by Hamlin and Uele being out as well, but to see the rotation that we saw, it was a bit odd.
Yeah, I think we almost have to give up Ricky Roulette because, I mean, some of the other clubs are worse these days. We've got the Sharks going crazy. We've had the Cowboys start to do it in the last few years. Even the Eels with their rotation was a bit funny this week. So, yeah, I guess we'll get there when we get there. But, yeah, I guess the ones that we were really interested to see were probably Brayley, to see if he was going to lose any minutes to McInnes. He didn't, but 46, not the most inspiring. And, I mean, we got to talk about it eventually. You didn't captain him, but I did.
Oh,
Wet
no.
Hair Prince on 26.
Oh, no.
26 for your captain's never good when they're not injured. I was flicking between Cleary and Hines, and it was basically only them because I'd VC'd Turbo.
Yeah.
And just no good. No good at all.
Oh, yeah, no, I think we should have said, well, I mean, granted, we couldn't know what this week was going to be. If we could look back on it, we'd definitely be putting more of the Vegas teams into our squads and definitely VC looping them because, yeah, 26. He went up, he updated up to like 35 or something, but then downgraded back down to 26. So, yeah, not what we wanted to see. And I think one of our biggest concerns going into this, this season was with Trindle, how much ball does he take away from Hines? How many points does he steal?
And the answer was 44 in total.
Yeah. If you said, because of their combination, they'll score 45, you'd be like, 45 each? No, 45 total.
I was talking to, I think it was Whisperer or someone like that, at about 20 or 30 minutes to go in the Penrith game. And I said, I did not have Danny Levi at a tenth of the price, outscoring both Hines plus Cleary combined. And it ended up being a little bit more than that by the end of the game. But my goodness, when you've paid $2 million for guys in your halfback position, you probably want to expect at least like 150 points. And when they combine for barely over 50, you've got a problem.
I just want to also highlight this for the people that watch a lot of podcasts, watch a lot of content. We constantly hear everyone going, you have to start with this. You have to start with this. All preseason, it was, you have to start with Hines and Cleary. If you go for anything else, you're being silly. I went with Brooks in my halfback position when it could have been in 5'8". I put him in my halfback position because I liked the makeup of my squad with him there, and I could move him in when I eventually want to get Cleary into my team. And everyone says, no, don't do that, don't do that. You end up getting Luke Brooks that outscores them combined. I think just a little bit short. But it just goes to show, build the team that you want to have. And then that way, if it goes wrong in any way, you're to blame. Not that podcast of Mr. Charity that you were listening to that said, make sure, you stay away from this player or bring this player in, and then they come out and they don't do well. So just remember that, everyone.
Yeah, it does bring up a really good point. Don't go around DMing or blaming people, say, I trusted you, I copied all of your ideas and trades, and look what happened. And it's like, bro, why are you playing that? If you're going to just copy someone else's team, what's the point? Do it for yourself to learn and have fun. So if you have fun by bringing in Luke Brooks and it works, good on you.
I think it's just now we'll see in the next couple of weeks, do Hines and Cleary go back to what they were? And anyone who also went against them, that's when you go, okay, it was a silly decision to do that. But I've got confidence in my picks, especially now with Nico Hines. After that poor performance, he's now versing bottom 8 sides. So I think we'll see a better performance over the next 3 weeks, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, I mean, who does Hines play next? I think it's Tigers and Dogs, is it? Or Tigers,
Bulldogs. No, I think it's Tigers, Bulldogs, Dragons, or something like that.
It's Bulldogs, Tigers, then Canberra. So
Okay.
Canberra did better than expected this week. But yeah, he could score 2 back-to-back 130s for all we know coming up next.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else from the Sharks Warriors game, or move on to the surprise Drudge Fest that was that Storm Panthers game?
I almost don't even want to talk about this game. That was
It was disgusting.
disgusting from two of the best. I mean, granted, the defense was incredible, but just ball handling skills, just the entertainment factor of what we saw. Even when we saw something entertaining, it ended up getting called back. So it's like it was a tough game to watch. I borderline just stopped watching it. I try to watch every single game. But
let me have a look at the errors now, because I looked halfway through the game and was like, that's only halfway through the game? Yeah, okay. So we had 16 errors and 6 penalties by the Storm, and 12 errors and 9 penalties by the Panthers. So if you're
16 errors
by the Storm, that's crazy.
I thought that was total. You were saying,
no.
Oh my lord!
If you add up all of those stoppages, you get, what's that? 22. You got 43 stoppages in 80 minutes. That's why it looks disgusting, because you're getting more than one every 2 minutes. That game went on forever, and it was just not a lot of fun. Yeah.
Jesus. That's not what we know from both of these teams. Two very disciplined teams, really high quality. Even the past couple of games they've played have been super high quality. That was terrible. I'm willing to just put a line through this game. I think we can talk about some of the good scorers from this, like seeing the likes of Taylor May. I'm so glad I went with him.
He looked amazing. Like in that game, he's basically the only one that wasn't a tackle bot who scored half decent. Other than Sonny Luke, for some reason, throwing the ball willy-nilly everywhere and getting about 6 offloads or something crazy. But yeah, 67 from Taylor May when he didn't have basically any. Well, he didn't have any try involvements because Penrith scored 0 points. That's a rarity. 67 from him, looking amazing in the centres. You take that. You take that every day of the week.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad I locked him in. I was contemplating getting rid of him, but left him there. I'm glad I went with it. So it's good. Hopefully, let's just see now if he can back that up, or if he just scored really high because nothing was going on throughout the rest of the team. So Taylor May said, just give it to me and I'll do something.
Mm-hmm. So when are we running the Sonny Luke, Danny Levi combo at hooker?
Look, I've already penciled the trade in. It's going in. 62 off the bench for someone who was originally paying reserve grade that week. What the hell did we experience?
That's just a summary of this week, eh? Just nothing makes sense.
Sonny Luke's season? Is that what I think?
I mean, Mitch Kenny better watch out because he's in trouble now.
Yeah, no, look, I think, and this is something to take from this. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be right with this, but we'll see. The reason Sonny Luke scored so high is because Panthers were struggling. Sonny Luke is a very different player to what the Panthers system is, which is why he doesn't gel when they're performing. But when they're not performing, he's just that different thing that can break up the attack from where it needs to be. The problem is they don't need that kind of player usually, because they're normally dominating teams and playing super well over the course of the last couple of years. So I think that's why Sonny Luke scored so well this game, because it was just something different.
So what you're saying is that we hope Penrith come bottom, don't come top 8, and Sonny Luke averages 55 for the rest of the year.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm so glad you understood that.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Moving down a bit, we had Isaac Tungo at right centre. This year could be interesting, but not a great first game for, most of the players. 46 from him. We had To'os, similar score of 45. Dylan Edwards on 40. Came down to Liam Henry on 36. Honestly, one of the better front row forward cheapies given some of the later performances.
I actually traded him in last minute. I traded him in for Hughes because I was like, you know what? I'm just a bit uncertain about the Bulldogs rotation. I feel like Hughes is only going to get a couple of minutes off the bench. And we'll talk about their minutes with their forwards a little bit later. But I'm actually really happy with that last minute trade. I think Henry's going to get more minutes than someone like a Hughes unless there's injuries personally, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, let me check. How many minutes did he end up actually getting? Liam Henry, 35. So, I mean, he pretty much did the bulk of the minutes that James Fisher-Harris didn't play. So Fish had 43, he had 35, pretty much made the 80 when you did all the interchanging. It was really interesting. So if he can get 35 minutes a game from now on, I mean, that's really good value because we've seen him be a jet in reserve grade. Guys like him and Terrell May and Hopgood have been insane PPM guys and scorers in reserve grade. And if he gets 35 minutes in regular NRL, 35 to 40 is on the cards.
I think what you need to take from it is the fact that he normally fills in for Fisher-Harris. And Fisher-Harris is one of the most dominant forwards in the game. You want to have them on the field as long as possible, especially when you're down. They were down by 8 points. They just needed that extra punch, and they still held off on playing Fisher-Harris towards the end of that game. So I think that 35 minutes that you see out of Henry is actually going to be more consistent throughout the year. I could be wrong with that, but that's my feeling of you want Fisher-Harris on the field sooner rather than later in one of those really tight games where you need a little bit more punch, and they didn't bring him on sooner than I personally would have. So, yeah, good to see.
It's a really interesting debate, honestly, because in the past we've seen James Fisher-Harris is a machine and will play all the time in all the games that Penrith need him to. In the last year or two, he's been Mr. Consistent, done well, but mostly stepped up for those really big crunch finals games and stuff. Like you'll see him play those 55 minutes finals games. Maybe that's what we're seeing from now on. Maybe he gets 2 or 3 minutes less a year and then revs up for those big games as he starts to not be as young and fresh as, say, the Liam Martin that's backing him up.
Yeah, exactly. Do we talk about Cleary?
I don't want to, but like Liam Henry equaled him 36 points as well. Man, what was this week, eh? What the heck was this week?
All right, moving on.
moving on. Elias Katoa is probably on the upper end of price, and we were looking for a lot of value second rowers. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be a gun. He's at the Storm in a good position. I think he had 2 or 3 injury-affected games last year that brought his average down a bit. So, I mean, he's probably a little underpriced and going to score well this year. 66 points, pretty solid.
Yeah, look, I'm looking at this list of players and what they scored, and the only things that I really want to bring up are how disappointing certain players were. Everything else was kind of just, there's no one really worth bringing up. A lot of them scored below what their break even is, but maybe not by much. So, I mean, that's okay. Yeah. Grant is probably the biggest one. That's a bit of a disappointment. He comes out round 1 last year against the Eels and scores 110 or whatever that was. This week comes out against the Panthers, wins and scores 49. It's not where it needs to be.
Nah, when you got Raymond Smith and Kamika ahead of him, it's been a weird game. But yeah, going down even. I think one of the main points about the Storm moving forward is that there's the Munster news that they kind of don't really know what's wrong with him. Like it's a sort of a groin problem, but apparently scans can't really figure out what's going on. And one day he's really good, and then the next day after he's done some training, he's really sore, and they're just not really certain on the time frame anymore.
Yeah, I heard everyone saying it's Munster season this season, and it hasn't got off to the best start. It's kind of like our Supercoach teams. It's just struggling early on, and we don't know why. So we'll see how that one plays out. But yeah, I can see the Storm struggling against some of the other teams, but they managed to grit this one out through really, really good defense. So maybe it is Storm season. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Well, we all were wondering whether it was going to be a good idea to pick up Pappenhausen at a cheaper price after a tough run, even before he lost goals. Then he lost goals, and he scored 30 points in round 1. So, I mean, what price are we going to get him at?
I think we're going to be able to pick him up for 500K, maybe even lower. Who knows? A Pappy at 500K could be interesting. But yeah, no. Look, you look at it and you go, oh, that's terrible. But then you look at what, Ponga for 300K more expensive almost.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Scores only 20 points more. Drinky, similar scores, like I think an extra 11 points, but it's 200K more expensive. So, you look at Pappy's score and you go, oh, that's terrible. But then you look at it in comparison and where you save the money. Maybe it's not the worst decision either.
It's certainly a very unusual start to the season. We sometimes lose money from those guns because they're guns we want those points, and that doesn't matter. But I mean, if they all lose value, it's going to be a very, very big couple of weeks we're going to have to make decisions for.
Exactly.
All right.
Did you have Joe Chan?
I did have Joe Chan. I did not play Joe Chan, and I'm grateful that I did not play Joe Chan because he makes Joe Stimpson look like prime Andrew Fafita with that work rate. That was terrible.
Yeah, that was not what we wanted to see. Look,
I think Bellamy came out in some conference and said something towards that his main position is middle. He needed to basically make more tackle. He's going to be fine, but it does make me worried that Blaw's are going to come back in sooner rather than later, and he'll go to 20-minute middle. But yeah, 24 points in like about 70 minutes from a starting forward is pretty disgusting.
Yeah, I think if he does get moved to that 20-minute position and you've got fires everywhere else that you're trying to put out, I don't think it's the worst. I think we can probably still see like that 20 points out of him because he knows he doesn't have to conserve his energy for the 80 minutes that he would be playing. But yeah, it wasn't what it needed to be. Granted, it was a very low-scoring Supercoach game, so I'd love to see how he performs next week. That's if he's in the team next week. Could just be another fire that we have to deal with.
If he is bench forward, please be a 30-minute one, not a 20-minute one, just for my sanity.
Please.
Yeah. Enough about that game, and on to the one that we were cheering about. It's time for Eels season. It's Eels season. Where are the grand
This
final
is our
tickets?
year. This is our year.
How good. But like, I jumped off the Cardi party way too soon, and apparently it's a party that has lasted the entire off-season and continued to this year. 116 from Bryce Cartwright. What a resurgence, hey. Like, these last couple of seasons, he's gone from fringe and he fell off to he's one of the most interesting and creative back rowers going around.
Remember, he was 5'8" for the Panthers. Like, it's crazy to see that he did that, then goes to the Titans, almost loses his career. We pick him up for bottom dollar, and he just performs. It's great. He was the highest scoring Supercoach player of this round, I'm pretty sure, on 116, which is incredible effort. He performs super, super well. Really, really happy with his output overall. So, I mean, has he locked down an 80-minute position in the team?
I mean, you have to think it's impossible to take it off him at this stage. Like Brad Arthur was saying in preseason, they want Tuilagi doing stuff eventually, but like they didn't even play Tuilagi for like tiny bench middle. Yeah, he didn't play tiny minute bench middle. He played 48 minutes or something crazy. The Eels were one of the couple of teams that had this very strange rotation that I wasn't expecting. And yeah, I mean, Hopgood still scored 61, but he didn't get anywhere near the minutes that I thought he was going to get. Joey Lussick played big minutes. Maybe we didn't need to worry about the Eels hookers after all, because he played about 68 minutes or 60-something minutes and scored 61 with that lovely assist. So, I mean, all of our stats are wrong, but all of our gut feels are right. Hey.
Yeah, it's quite odd to see how this all played out. But, I mean, Lussick, the 40-20 was incredible. They looked like a great team. And then as soon as he subbed off and Hands came on, they actually didn't look great. That's where all the Bulldogs points came from, was immediately after Lussick was subbed off. So I think that's more coincidence, but very, very interesting to see, because I rate Hands more than I do Lussick. So seeing the performance that Lussick put in, really, really great. And that's an option that you can do to downgrade a hooker if you're not happy, and just run a Levi and Lussick. I don't trust that, but that's something you can do to free up cash elsewhere to fix other fires you have. So, yeah, really, really great performance.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I wasn't expecting was Tuilagi to play 15 more minutes than Ryan Madison. That was very crazy to me. Like, I mean, they won, so I'm not going to question it, but I was not expecting that. 47 minutes for him and 32 for Maddo. And
how did Maddo score 2 points per minute?
He's just built different, man. He's just built different. Honestly, they need to give him minutes, or he'll probably go to another club. He just needs to be in the team doing things because he's a good player.
Yeah. I think outside of those players, I think there were a few that sort of like were a little bit of like a letdown in comparison to where we thought they would be. Brown didn't perform to where I wanted him to. He still scored 54, which in a week, the week that we had, that's actually not the worst, but I expected more out of him. Same with Lane on 41. I wasn't really happy with that.
Do you know what's really funny? If you didn't captain a Vegas fullback, he was just about the best of the rest captain options. That's mental. You got Ponga on 50. You had Cleary and Hines go way down, and then you had Dylan Brown on 54. So like,
you also had Luke Brooks on 58, but that's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's all good. We've got it under control. But yeah, we had Will Penasini start really hot and then score about 0 points for the next 50 minutes of the game when Mitch Moses hurt his groin and stopped kicking. And Mitch Moses, wasn't he on 31 after like about 30 minutes and then finished on 32? Now he's updated to 33. Like that's well, it's you. If you don't laugh, you cry. Like if you were somebody who went, I'm not going to pay double gun, you were cheering. You're like, I've passed the rest of these guys already, and they just stopped.
Yeah, that was a tough decision. You see it start off, and you're like, good, I made the right decision. And then as the round goes on, you go, nope, I didn't make the right decision.
It was a round like that, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else from the Eels?
I mean, Gutherson did okay, but Gutherson usually does okay. I'm not
my partner captained Gutho, so she did better than most of us this week.
There you go.
So
there you go.
Incredible.
Yeah. I don't want to hear. I mean, Blake Wilson top scored for the Bulldogs, but I don't want to hear any Blake Taff slander. He's a gun. He's a jet. 55 points.
Where's the leave call button? Where is that? There it is. No. I actually didn't realize this. I'm just looking at it now. How in the hell did he score 55?
I don't know. I just do not know.
Was that his reserve grade stats? Was that like preemptively sending him to reserve grade? Was that what they? I can't. 55.
It's just one of these things that is just absolutely hilarious to me. And
Ponga to Taff this week, is that what
Ponga to Taff is an upgrade. Ponga to Taff is an upgrade, guy. Free up some cash.
He had a bit of a shocker, but obviously, I mean, I was watching this game from Seabus Super Stadium for the next game. So I was watching it on my phone, so I didn't get to pay full attention. So I'm curious if I missed anything as to why Blake Taff was scoring 55, or whether or not it was one of those things where he just got points out of nowhere. Did you see anything out of Taff? No.
Blake Taff did Blake Taff things according to my eyes, but apparently he scored 55 somehow. But yeah, one thing that we apparently didn't talk about, some coach halfbacks just bring up, Cardi played lock after the Kelmer sub, looked even better at 13. So that's possibly a reason why the minutes are a bit swapped around the way they were to playing a couple more minutes at edge. But yeah, I mean, the Cardi party doesn't matter where he plays, it just rolls on.
Actually, that's not a bad rotation, actually. You move one of Lane or Cardi out of that 2RF spot to bring in Kelmer, but then move a Cardi or move a Lane or bring back Hopgood. like into that 13, or when Hopgood isn't on the field, you move one of those two RFs into there. I don't mind that as a rotation because you're still keeping all of your really good players on the field. It's the middles where they really do seem to struggle for that punch and go forward when Borlo and RCG aren't on the field. So yeah,
it could be a really good thing going forward for the Eels, to be honest, if they're able to rest one of those three every week and give them just a couple less minutes. But that might not be good for their scores, though. No, not for Supercoach. It'll be like Hopgood 70-70-50, 70-70-50. So yeah.
Don't think bad thoughts. Don't think bad thoughts. Get it out.
Yeah. Josh Curran, third highest scorer. Was not expecting that, but I mean, minutes were moved around a fair bit with Josh Adokar going off. That meant that Kiraz went to wing and Sam moved to centre, and then Curran came on and played decent minutes. So that's why that's ended up like that. Yeah. Reed Money at 51. How many tackles did he miss? I'll have to check. But yeah, I mean,
wasn't it like actually low, or was it?
It was 10.
Okay,
according to one, and according to Fox, I don't know, but it was still high. We need Reed Money to make tackles instead of miss them in order to have value. And when he flew out of the line in trials, I basically just put a line through him because he's like. He's doing a James Maloney. His last name nearly is Maloney. So he's the missed tackles king. He's never going to change.
Missed tackles and penalty king. Crazy to see. But what a competitor he is. He just throws his all into it, which is why he misses 10 tackles. He's tiny. Well, granted, I'd say he's tiny. I actually saw him out the front of a clinic when he was getting scans start of the year, last year maybe. And he was taller than me, so I was like, oh, geez, how tall is all the other NRL players? It's ridiculous.
Huge. I had a mate say that Grant looks enormous up close. So, like, you just can't trust everything. Tom Starling would probably fold me in half. So, all right, we got Kiraz on 49. I mean, you're probably hoping for more, but in a game where the Bulldogs didn't have a lot of possession at all, 49 is not the worst. So.
Yeah, look, I'm looking at a lot of these scores, and other than, your Currans, your Taffs, and your Wilsons, a lot of them actually really disappoint me to where they, you'd hope that they were at. Granted, they were really struggling for possession, so they didn't really get a lot of time with the ball, a lot of ability to score points. You look at Max King. Can you check how many minutes he got? Because I think he only got something like 40 minutes.
Yeah, it was 42 minutes. I honestly expected him to be on a higher score, to be honest. I ended up moving him out of my team for Arrow, I think, last week. But yeah, he started hot, and I just thought he must have ended up on a half-decent score. But no, I mean, didn't get enough minutes to quite get there.
And you think with the lack of rotation of Curran and Salmon, when Mann comes on the field to take that spot, you'd think that he would play more minutes off the back of that, but didn't. And then you look at all the other forwards, and none of them really scored that high either. Like Farmasili was on 15, Morin on 20, and Hughes on 31. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand why it was so low, especially when they didn't have a lot of possession. So they were just making a bunch of tackles. It's crazy.
Someone else who basically just made tackles was Drew Hutchison. If anybody has him in their team, I would be starting to get a bit concerned by that Bulldogs performance because, I mean, Burton was doing long kicking, but kicking doesn't score Supercoach points, and he finished on 15. The Bulldogs, they've overhauled their entire top 30 in the last 3 years, and they're still not very inspiring, are they?
What is it? I don't think you can blame the board like you could with the Tigers. It's not the players because you've got rid of all of them. What is it? Why are they just not doing well? I don't know. I think Gus Gould talks a lot about a losing culture that some teams get, and I feel like that's maybe what they've got, a losing culture, and it just stays within the players that they just don't know how to win, which is why they tried to bring in winning players, but they're still not performing. It's just they have the ability to take these world-class players and they're just not performing to where they need to. So, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, obviously. But yeah, just really, really not happy with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, we had Salmon as well in the forwards, made a fair few tackles, and then got moved to center and basically stopped scoring. 29, but like if
He
he's
also had a couple of errors as well.
Yeah, if he stays in the middle and doesn't miss as many and doesn't drop as many, he should be okay to just sit there and drizzle up a little bit of money. But yeah, for now, a bit kick out. How many minutes did kick out finish on? Wasn't 67. So I mean, we weren't probably expecting him to play 80 every game, but yeah, anyone who was looking at kick out, because we've seen what he can do in the past, he's never a consistent guy, but he can have a high ceiling. Not an amazing and inspiring start with the 44.
Yeah, no, not happy.
All right. Enough with the Dogs, you reckon? We got anything else we want to touch on for this game? Oh, I guess with the Adokar injury, Karaz will probably move to wing for a bit, and then we'll see a little bit of shuffling going on. We'd probably see Bronson Sherry come in, you reckon?
Yeah, either that or I was watching the reserve grade team. Jerry played good in the trials. I really like the look of Eli Clark. I like him, but you're probably going to see either a Jerry or a Connor Tracy come in if he's healthy. Connor Tracy was 18th man for this game, so you'd have to assume that he was fit enough to play if he had to. So you're most likely going to see Tracy in there, but Jerry's a sniff to get in. Or it could be Connor Tracy to fullback and Jerry into center. I wouldn't mind that. But Eli Clark, I reckon, is once he gets in, he's a good player. I'm really liking what I see out of him.
Yeah. Is there a shout for? Oh, his name's gone straight out of my head. Skelton. Is there a shout for Skelton just to come in?
Maybe. I think he scored like 2 or 3 tries in that trial game. It was a very high scoring game, but I don't know. I don't think Skelton's ready yet. I think he still needs some more time. But I mean, it could happen, and they could keep Karaz at center. I think it just depends how long Adokar's out for, because you could keep Karaz at center so that he stays in that position, gets used to it, defending there and everything, and Adokar comes back in. But if Adokar's out long term, then maybe move him to the wing, bring in one of these other good centers.
Yeah, I would like to see Skelton there because I like him and he's a good player. But yeah, he could just be a mid-season play rather than right now.
Yeah.
Alrighty, getting to these last 2 games of the round, we've got the Titans versus Dragons first, and Dragons win by 24 points. Give me the grand final tickets, hey?
Mate, I'll tell you what. I was at that game. I think the Dragons fans were louder than the Gold Coast fans there. They were huge. They were chanting. They were having these like old school, like the high school, gym carnival chants. They had them going out. They performed really, really well. Seeing them on the ground, how fast their play the ball was, how fast their line speed was. Really, really impressed with what I saw from the Dragons. And if you had Dragons in your Supercoach team, I think you were pretty happy as well for the most part.
One of the guys that was possibly joining us tonight but didn't end up has Zach Lomax and will be crowing all the way to the bank with his lovely 108 points. And then you also had the hat-trick master Tyrell Sloan. No disrespect on Sloan. He scores Supercoach centuries.
Yep. So we're bringing Sloan in next week. Is that what everyone?
Sloan is the top fullback this year.
Well, you're not wrong. That's for sure. He looked really, really good. Lomax was incredible. Watching him play, some of the contact that he had as well was just great. Goal kicking as well. Did really good goal kicking. Yeah, he just performed really, really well.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, do they just straight up – do they just send Luciano Leilua back to the Cowboys at this point? What a performance. Winding back the clock, Raymond Faitala-Mariner, what a stud. 86 points as well. We'll take that. But, I mean, you've got to be worried about what happens next week.
He upgraded as well. He was on, I think, like 78 points or something and upgraded to 86. His He's incredible. I think you've got to find a spot for him in the team. And honestly, I didn't understand why they got Luciano Leilua. And after this, I think there's going to be even more reason as to why did they bring him when you've got someone like Raymond on there. Raymond can, I think, play in the middle or at least at lock. So you could do that, but they've got great lock options. They've got Jack DeBellin, which is a pretty handy lock. And you've got Eisenhuth, which had he's another one of those 300K players forwards for the Dragons that played really – actually, one of the 300K players from the Dragons that played really, really well. There were a couple of them.
Yeah, you said a bit before about losing culture, and you have these guys who are a little bit older or coming back after an injury, moving to a worse team. You think, oh, yeah, these are the guys who could just fall off and quietly fizzle out in the last few years. And no, not for round one, not at least to start the year. Really good start by both of those guys. Yeah. And I hope the best for the Dragons this year because, I mean, it would be really nice to see the Dragons do well this year and push like up into that sort of 10th, 11th, 12th bracket or even higher.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got the highest scoring halfback of the round in Ben Hunt. He played really, really well even after his 2015 flashback moment, which was so disappointing to hear. It was so funny on ground as well. That happened, and everyone went, "Oh." The next kickoff where they kicked straight back to Ben Hunt, the roar from the crowd when he caught it was the funniest thing. It was incredible. But Ben Hunt. Is there anything you wanted to say on Ben Hunt?
Oh, Ben Hunt's a competitor. I think we've all probably written him off a little bit just because he tried to get out. But he said he's committed for this year. And I mean, I think he's going to have fun. He looked like he was having fun. And if the Dragons can actually win a few, I mean, he could do well this year. What's he actually priced at? I actually just don't know.
Just shy of 600K.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think I'll see him score 79 every week, but I mean, just keep a vague eye on him. Just don't buy him, but just watch him just to say in 10 weeks, oh, I knew he was going to be good and then not have bought him like a real Supercoach podcaster.
Exactly. No, look, I'm going to be very honest about the things that I said to do that didn't play out and the things that I didn't say to do that didn't play out well, like the AFB shout that we said earlier. What I really, really enjoyed seeing was, in the preseason, we heard, Ben Hunt and Flanagan were combining really well. And we were like, oh, that's what they're going to say to get you hyped about the season when you literally had no one else to play there pretty much. But watching them combine, that try for Sloane's third try, it went Little to Flanagan to Hunt to Sloane, the entire spine, and they all just looked crisp. Every single, well, not every single one, but like every time that the Hunt and Flanagan combined, it just seemed to work and seemed to flow. Now, it wasn't injury, depleted Titans. We have a lot of people out, so that could be one of the reasons, and that's why I actually chose to load up a little bit more on Dragons players. But, what I saw, if they can keep that up, mate, it's going to be a very, very interesting year for the Dragons.
Yeah, I do think so. And one of those guys was Jake Little, wasn't it?
I'll take my praise now. Like, I don't know if you want to throw it at me. Do we do it now, or do you want me to talk about why I made this masterstroke decision?
Give us the juicy details, man.
Yeah, okay. So, my decision to bring in the top scoring hooker of round one, when everyone said, no, it has to be Grant, or it has to be Coruscant, or it has to be, and I said, no, it's Little. I think you guys just weren't looking at what I was looking at. No, Little has always been a really great player. He runs really hard out of dummy half. He has great service. So he's very easily an 80-minute hooker. It's not looking like they are going to go down that path, but he's incredible, right? The problem has been his minute consistency in the past for me. He hasn't been able to get on the field as much, but now with what we've seen out of the Dragons, the injuries and lack of players in the spine, I think we're going to see a lot higher out of Little. Maybe that'll deplete throughout later on in the season, but I think he's going to do well, and I think he really suits Shane Flanagan's coaching style in terms of what he wants out of his team. They normally have their big forwards rolling up the field and playing quick play the balls, which suits Little's running game super well. And on field, I saw their running game, how quickly they played the ball. It just brought Little into his own. So, yeah, really, really good performance out of him. I'm very happy with his score and his upgrade to 71, which made him the highest scoring one.
Fantastic. Yeah, this whole Dragon Spine ended up doing well. We had Kyle Flanagan scoring 58. We had a lot of conversations about what to do for that second 5/8 spot. And I think a lot of us ended up pushing it down to Strange or to Galvin with just some of the money issues going around. But I mean, if you held on to Flanagan, 58 points is a really, really good start.
Yeah, I had him in my second 5/8 spot. I didn't reserve him, however, though. So that one hurts. But yeah, because I moved Strange down to CTW just because there's no CTW cheapies down there. And Flanagan's pretty cheap at 310K. So that's the reason I went with that, which seems to have paid off well, but I didn't play him. So we'll see how it goes for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Just one to keep an eye on for Price because he can sometimes have really big scores, as we know. That score of 16 will chunk Ravala's break even up quite high. If he has a couple of low ones in a row and loses a lot of cash, he'll be good fun to jump on. But yeah, just a watch for now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's not too many others to bring up. I mean, Viliami Fafita, only scores 17 off the bench. A lot of people have him in your team just as a dual position bottom dollar. I'm okay with having him in there. He's going to eventually turn into someone else unless he nuffs himself out with Leilua coming into the side and Fatal Amara taking that spot. So we'll see how that plays out. But it's not what you'd like him to score at least 20, but beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah. We were talking about them for so long that I nearly forgot we were supposed to talk about the Titans too. The Dragons are just so much fun, hey.
Well, I think in a week where we just didn't get good scores, Dragons were the one.
Look at that. Well. 5 scores above 70. Did any other team do that this week apart from maybe like Manly or something? I don't think they did.
No. I'm just looking through the teams, and I think, no, definitely not.
Yeah, it was good fun. Tino led the way, no surprise there with the 64. Chris Rand, and then it jumps down a fair bit. I mean, you got 46 as the second highest Titans player. You know that they haven't necessarily performed to their best. But Chris Randall, I didn't watch the game, but didn't he move from hooker into the middle rotation? And Verrills came on at hooker for most of the rest?
Yeah, Verrills came on actually a lot earlier than I thought he was going to come on, which was quite interesting. I thought we were going to at least see like 20, 30 minutes of Randall playing in that hooking position and then have Verrills come on afterwards. I think it was when they got off to such a poor start, they then threw Verrills on and just didn't have the desired outcome. But yeah, Randall scored pretty well, but again, under break even. Yeah, the Titans... This game, it's similar to Storm and Panthers. Put a line through. But if this is how they're going to play moving forward, because they were not impressive in the trials, not impressive in this game, mate, should you have just kept Holbrook as coach? Like, they were doing pretty well. They were fringy 8 side. But yeah.
We could see some very quick coach flicks this year if there aren't turnarounds. But yeah, we had Beau Fermor play a weird game and not play anywhere near as...
Okay, I'm going to say something on this. So what I saw from this side and with Beau Fermor specifically, it looked like Weaver came in to replace Foran. They had a game plan that they tried to follow through with, but Weaver's not Foran. They kept hitting Bo Fermor running a line, and it just wasn't where it needed to be. If Forward's in that team, it's a little bit different. So I'm willing to keep Fermor and see how it plays out because you have got that round 2 bye. However, if Foreign comes back and they still aren't using Fermor well, and then Fafita comes back and maybe Fafita goes to the left and Fermor moves to the right, it may be a very quick sell out. But I think we can expect more out of Fermor based on what I saw. It looks like the game plan is to hit him. They just weren't hitting him right.
Yeah. Keeney, he's a cheapy fullback but didn't score well, and you probably shouldn't have had him. I heard, who was it that was on the pod earlier with us in the year saying Khan Pereira might be a go with this early season draw. He scored a try, but he scored a try and scored 26. I mean, you can't. It's a bit unlucky when you're getting that sort of numbers.
Yeah, look, it was a very poor game from the Titans. Hopefully, and we can't even see it next week, right? We got to wait till the week after to see them come back. I think Des is going to flog them for 2 weeks and just get them to where they need to be. I think the other thing to point out is Palacia. I think a lot of us had been warning against Palacia not going in, and then when he's starting 13 in the team reviews, I still said, I don't see him play. I see him playing for like 20 minutes, coming off, and then only coming back on for an injury. How many minutes did he end up playing?
He played 31, so not much.
Yeah, it wasn't where it needed to be. I think a lot of people are looking to flick him now.
I had one of my mates I was discussing this with a bit earlier, is the Titans in the last couple of years with the decent size Fafita injury we had the other year and the season-long Bo Fermor injury last year. We had Stimson sitting there not playing a full game. The Titans have sort of adapted this game plan where they play a rotation in that one edge spot and then go big minute middles. And now that they've got 2 guys who are playing 80 minutes, have a look at all of the rest of the guys' minutes. You had Tina at 58 minutes. Okay. You had Fodawaker at 49 minutes. Okay. And then you move down, you've got Aaron Clark on 27, Liu on 22, Palacia on 31, Joliffe on 22. That's not numbers you probably would have really thought about if you were starting the year.
No, I don't like it. I started my season 2024 team picker with Fodawaker. I'm glad I went away from that because it's just a nightmare that rotation and just figuring out who's going to play what minutes there. I'm not excited about the Titans forwards.
Yeah. All right. Anything more to add about the Titans, or do we just move on to the final game?
Yeah, let's move on. This was a little bit more exciting. And
points.
Some interesting, points.
Actual points.
Actual points. It was great to see. This is a sunny track. I almost went to this game. Got very, very close to booking some tickets for it. I actually also have a Woody costume from Toy Story, so I was contemplating doing that. But let me just get myself ready for this Cowboys chat because I'm now on the bandwagon. Let's go.
It's a couple of years in a row that the Cowboys and especially guys like Robson didn't look amazing in trials and then came out and looked all right, looked pretty good. I mean, Dolphins missing a couple of players, especially like Tom Gilbert with that horrible setback that he's just had. He had that blood clot and he's had his surgery pushed back. But yes, they just ripped him to bits. It was looking like a 50-plus score before they slowed down around that halftime mark. And you had 3 guys tunning up. If you picked a gun center, you weren't usually rewarded this week. But if you picked Val Holmes, or Zach Laber or Taulagi, all 3 of those center wing options scored a ton.
Yeah, I had set up a second team before the trials had hit, and I called it my joke team because I did it very different to what everyone else would have picked in their teams, and I had Valentine Holmes and Hammer in that team. because it was something that not a lot of people were spending big in CTW. So I spent big in CTW and front row forward. I had Tino and Haas. I had Braden Smith and Little, and then I had Marju, Holmes, Hammer, and a couple of others. So it was a very, very interesting team to see Holmes come in and
scored 1,200 points this week or something, did it?
It was just shy of 1,000, but it did better than my normal team.
Yeah. There was a couple of guys in this game who, I mean, besides Holmes, probably not a lot of high-owned guys in that top bit until you get down to a few people jumped on Robson potentially, 64. That's pretty solid given the other scores during this week.
Again, Rugby League Realm, the guy who picked Lomax, he also had in his team Nanai and Robson. So just a really, really good pick of players.
Great
some
gut,
really
gut reads.
Yeah, just some really, really good things. I think Lukey, after seeing him score 11 and then go off with a HIA, I had predicted a first half injury. That's what I predicted in our Supercoach Hub thing, and then it happened, and I went, "Oh no, what have I done?" But,
you were getting
luckily,
flamed.
Lucky he came back on. 64 coming back on after scoring 10, getting HIA coming back on to score that was pretty good.
You fixed him for us, so it ended up all right. But yeah,
I don't think it was me, but yeah.
A couple of lower scores for some of the guys. We probably wanted a little bit more from, especially Drinkwater. But I mean, Drinky 48. When Nathan Cleary and Nico Hines scored a lot less than that, probably not as big of an issue.
You'll take it in this week, hopefully. I think the problem with Drinkwater, right, is the reason most people put him in their teams was the fact that even when Cowboys weren't doing well, he was creating all of their points. He was the one that was in the middle of it all. So you're thinking, well, Cowboys are going to do better this year. That means that Scott Drinkwater will do better. No, it's kind of like everyone else stood up. Yeah, we started seeing a bit better performances and try setups out of everyone else without Drinky having to be involved. So good signs for the Cowboys, not good signs for Drinkwater owners, but we'll see how he goes next week.
Yeah, it was quite interesting because last year, when was it? He hit a certain time and just went nuclear. He had a quiet spot just before Origin, and then he just absolutely blitzed to the end of the year.
It was mid-Origin.
He just hit like 20 or 30 assists from that time on and was just points after points after points. But yeah, if that was because he was sort of the one that was doing that. We saw that in the last trial. He laid on 3 tries and we thought, here it comes. And this team was the opposite of what we saw in trials.
I think it was all these teams were opposite what we saw in trials. It was crazy to see.
How'd you go at tipping for this week? You doing into that?
I haven't even logged in. I don't want to see it. I'll do that. I'll do that on.
I think I got 2. And one of them was Eels. It was just that week, that sort of week.
Yeah, no, we'll see how we go. I'll get my tips up and then I'll get back to you on what I scored. But I think as well, just a comment in the chat about Labour. I think he saved a lot of people's first round. That was terrible. Keep in mind there was that very odd penalty try. I don't understand why that was given a penalty try, but it happened and he gets the points for it. So we'll see if something like that happens again this year. But he still scored really, really great if you take that out.
Yeah. Somebody that definitely you have to just keep an eye on for now is probably the one that's coming up below, which is Sam McIntyre. We had Lolo just play no minutes at all. Did he come off because he had a strain? Yeah.
He came off a little bit injured, and they were like, yeah, we'd already had the game sort of like we were already ahead. We thought, why risk it? He can come back on if he needed to. So that'll be a watch and see if he's named next week or if they rest him. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. At least we saw that he can play minutes. I mean, he played 47 and Griffin Neem played 33. So, I mean, it is something to keep an eye on. But
Yeah, exactly.
at his price, just watch and wait. And then if it ends up coming good, jump on. But yeah, we probably have problems we want to deal with first before we just go rushing headlong into him unseen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we touch on Cotter? Did we kind of skip him?
No, we haven't spoken about Cotter.
Yeah.
Not the best performance. He did okay, but not the best.
Yeah, not the minutes we probably wanted to see from him. We probably wanted to see about that 60 mark at lock, and 51 in a game where Lolo came off and didn't come back on is probably a little concerning. I will want to monitor that moving forward.
One of your favourite players, Jake Granville, scoring 33. His break-even's 30. Is it Granville's season this year? Is that?
He's making 3K a week, and by the end of the season, he'll have made you his money.
3 times 27. You know, that's he's almost going to go up 100K. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be a great option just to bring up whenever there's somebody on a buy.
Exactly.
It's good stuff. Yeah, we'll move over to the Dolphins now. A couple of 70s here instead of the 100s, but one of them was an all-important front row forward, Tommy Flegler, 76. That if you went for Flegler over a couple of these other mid-range guys who didn't really perform like your Arrows and your Max Kings, you had a lot better of a time than other people.
I was very, very close to having Flegler over Max King, but because Max King was more expensive, I'm like, it's going to be an easier upgrade to like a Tino or a Haas later. So I'll keep it that way, even though there's injuries in the Dolphins squad. But yeah, if you went with Flegler, good job, because he played really well. Now, granted, he's not going to get a try every week, but still a great score.
Yeah, good stuff from Flegler. Hammer, 79. You paid a bit of money for him, and he came off, did pretty well. You pretty much did his job, just did what you wanted him to do.
Yeah, exactly. The one I was surprised with was Jeremy Marshall-King scoring 53. If you said that he was on 12, I wouldn't be surprised with that either. I was really high on Jeremy Marshall-King this year. But yeah, just played so well. Supercoach wise, not eye test wise.
Yeah, I think I just kept getting scared off him after a certain point when the cheapy hookers popped up and he had that buy. I just thought it was too much running around. Good chance he still comes in. Good chance he still comes in for those lovely 3 rounds that he plays during Origin. Yeah. Until then, he'll probably just be one to watch his price and pick up at the appropriate time before that comes around.
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't much else that really stood out to me from this Dolphins side. I mean, Max Plath coming on and playing those couple of extra minutes for Lemuelu out sort of helps if anyone wanted that cheapy 5'8" and brought him in. Maybe he's going to score a couple of extra points here, but I don't see it playing out. Everyone else on this team I'm looking at. The one that we should actually talk about is Josh Kerr, scoring a 76. He's someone who can play front row and 2RF. They're depleted in those positions. Scoring 76 and he's 350K. He might actually come into a little bit of Supercoach relevance moving forward.
We'll have to see how it moves on next week with Lemuelu being out and the time frame for that. But if they settle into, well, even just say that 40 minutes like he got today, with a low break even, that's a good good start.
I think like a Ewan Aiken comes in instead though, to take that Lemuelu spot. But you know, you've also got Max Plath who can play that 2RF position if need be. I don't think they should do that, but that's just an option. And then you've got maybe even a Valence Tafare who can come in and just play those sort of like a couple of minutes off the bench. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Yeah.
He's fit and firing. He can do anything.
Exactly.
He's done the boot camp. He can topple the world.
Yeah. No, Kerr's someone I'm actually going to keep my eye on over the course of this next couple of weeks, because especially if he keeps putting scores out like that, he's He's definitely one I want in my team.
Yeah. Some of the more expensive center wings, like the Hammers of the world, did all right. But yeah, Isako and Farnworth, if you paid up for those, a pair of 46s wasn't what you were after. Hopefully you can get some good scores if they manage to put some stronger efforts together and some more attacking stats.
Yeah. Bostock, I think, is probably one to talk about.
Yeah.
I've advised against him constantly, but he's constantly been in and out of my team. I'm glad I didn't go with him. Even though he scored well for a cheapy CTW, he was on 15 before that try, I think, and then lost 2 points for going for the intercept and knocking it on. If he doesn't score a try, I think he's not a play.
I think that's pretty much what we're expecting from Bostock. Yeah, he's going to score better than his break even if he scores, and he's not if he doesn't or like barely touches it. So not going to be a consistent, quick moneymaker unless there's a lot of attack like there was with someone like Khan Pereira last year. But I don't know if I see that in Bostock.
Yeah. For me, it's still an avoid. I can't wait for people to go, oh, he was cheap and he scored 38. Let's bring him in. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, don't panic trade for 38, guys. It's not worth it. Not by far.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, that just about brings us to the end of a very tumultuous week. All right, let's rip the Band-Aid off. How did you end up scoring? And do you think it was an okay score considering this week?
I mean, considering this week and some of the decisions that I made that I probably shouldn't have made, playing out, I ended up scoring 850. What about you?
I want to mumble this score really, really quietly and move on because I got a gigantic 767.
767. Listen, I've scored worse personally. I've scored worse than that before. But yeah, I think it's close to par this week. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I think 850 is not too bad. If you hit one of the guys that had 100, that wasn't named like Latrell Mitchell or something, you probably had a good week. And if you didn't, probably didn't. So
yeah, I don't have a single 100 score in my team.
Yeah, but you had to go Jake Little and Luke Brooks.
That is true. Good. That is true.
Yeah, so I ended up with who did I end up with? A bunch of guys like Jai Arrow, Sam Hughes, Bo Fermor, Tupanua, Hines captain, Ethan Strange in my starting 17, and Ben Travojevic not in my starting 17. So that's probably where it went wrong.
See, you look at my team, right? And I'm like, if I had have got my reserves picked right,
extra 100 points.
Tupanua, I'd picked Hines and Drinky. But I looked to my bench. I had, Jesse Arthurs went down. Jesse Arthurs was on 60. He's gone down to 48 now all of a sudden. Where did that come from? If he was on 60, that was 60 points. Flanagan, 58, and Levi, 45. They were ones I could have potentially picked up. My highest scoring player, you ready for this? Burbo.
Yeah. I had Tommy Turbo as my VC on 81. I'm like, nah, that's not a VC. That's not a loopable score. And there aren't many times where an 81 would have been the definite correct choice to loop. But given how the bench scored better than a lot of my starters, this week it would have worked.
Should I go through what the best possible team you could have picked would have been for this week? Is that something that we should go through?
Yeah, let's quickly go through it. This pod's starting to run a bit long, but I mean, it's round one. We've got to talk about some footy. Let's go through that.
So the best possible team you could have picked with the salary cap is all of these top scoring players and then nothing out every single other position. So the gamble on this would have been pretty big. But are you ready for this? Jacob Little on 71 points at hooker. Your two front rowers are AFB and Flegler. Your two RFs is Cardi, Hosking.
Legend.
And I took out Olakwatu because he's too expensive and you go over your salary cap, and then put in Raymond Fatala Mariner instead. Hosking, I said that. Hunt and Metcalf as your halves. Lomax, Manu, Holmes, and Labut, and then Trell at fullback. And then your reserves are Garrick at CTW, Kenner at CTW, Mulatalo at CTW, and Sloan at fullback. That would have been the best possible scoring team you could have picked, and it would have got you a whopping 1,582 points in this week. That's not even taking into consideration who you captain. So if you had a captain Cardi, it would have doubled it, added another 116 to that.
Oh, it just shows you how cooked this week was. Hey, like, if anybody scored 1,000, they are leagues ahead of a lot of people at the moment. And for that team to score that much is kind of insane. But yeah, so don't panic your heads off. Even if you're someone like me who had a couple of unlucky misses with my reserves and my starters and scored sub 800.
Yeah.
This runs into our next segment that we'll lead up to before we finish. Who are the guys you should chase? Who are the guys you should not panic on? And who are the guys you just dump and run?
So I know I pitched this to you before we got stuck in, but I actually didn't end up picking who I would pick for these positions. But I have my eyes on a few people. I think trading, the ones that I am trading out, and I need to reassess this come Teamless Tuesday, but my plan has been to get rid of Tupanua based on his scans and upgrade to May. So I've made sure that I have enough cash to do that. Tyrrell May just looked incredible. I'm going to have both Mays in my team because that's what they want. They want to play for the same team. They can play for my team, that's for sure.
That's how it works.
So that's definitely one of the things that I want to bring in. I think bringing in Labor is a shout as well. There's a really good opportunity to find some cash to bring in Labor, but I don't know if that's what I'm going to go with. Is there anyone in particular that you're bringing in or trading out?
Yeah, Labor's a good shout. I was trying to remember if the other bloke, the other winger / center for the Cowboys was injured or not. What's his name? It's completely gone out of my head.
Tulangi?
No, Valemi. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, if Labor has the spot, I mean, I considered him for a while, but just went off him because there are some other higher ownership guys who look to have similar upside. And just from game theory, that just seemed to be a better play. However, then they ended up, I don't think, other than Taylor May, I had a scoring center wing that's went over 50. So yeah, Labor in a Cows team that looks all right could be good. I might wait till third week though if he gets 2 in a row that are good. For me,
that's a good shot.
Yeah, for me, the guys who I'm looking to actively get rid of could well depend on team lists. Because, I mean, given the comments after the Storm press conference, if we do see Joe Chan squished to the bench and looking like he's only going to play 20, it's going to be really hard to see a path to make money. If the bench isn't too bad for him, I'll probably keep. Yeah, guys like, if Arrow is going to be a bit of a problem, probably move on. I don't think week 1 I will unless it's actually bad. Tupanua is an issue though. Like, he's not the craziest PPM scorer and he needs that 80 minutes. So if there's going to be question marks over that, he'll go out. To be honest, there's not a lot of guys who I'm instantly panic trading this week. There's a lot of guys who are like, there's a reason why they scored low this week and I'm happy to ride one more. But yeah, it could very well be that I use none this week and then boost straight up next week.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that you can take away from this week, right? Is to go, this is just one of those anomaly weeks when, God forbid we next week isn't like this. And, it just goes back to normal super coach. You pick this team for a particular reason. You wanted to have people in. Just look at it this way. If you had a shit week this week, everyone else pretty much did. So don't stress too much. You've got a team. You built your team for a reason. Keep going with that. The only trades you should be making is if you made a decision on this player based on round 1. So, for example, I brought in Tupanua last minute because I didn't have a lot of cash in 2RF, but I said, you know what? He's starting 2RF. They're playing in Vegas, where I think they're going to be doing like a lot of forward runs. They're not going to be able to do as much like lateral movement and cutout balls. So they're probably going to be hitting the second rower. Let's go with that. That's a classic example of outthinking the room. So many wingers and centers scored over there. So I brought him in for that particular reason. After seeing how well May performed, the fact that Tupanua was going for scans, that trade makes sense to me. I was going to go into another one that I was potentially going to make, but I won't touch on that because it's a stupid thing to think, but it's where I was at. So, but yeah, that's it.
It's full panic trade mindset right now because you're like, I scored way under 1,000. My team is rubbish. It must be. It's just like sort of that impulse reaction because you see that number in front of your screen, and I mean, fair. Yeah. But like, you've also got to go, is Jamin Salmon a sell? Well, probably not, because he moved to the centers and got no points after that. If he stays in the middle, he'll probably make money. Ethan Strange, if he gets a couple of assists and does a little bit more, he'll be all right. Like, there's a lot of those type of guys. You just need to know for sure before you actually chuck them out of your squad.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it, right? There's not much else we need to touch on.
Yeah, that's a good round one. It wasn't even a full round one, but it was a round one that existed, I suppose. I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to wake up and say, wow, what an optimistic week I have ahead of me for Supercoach. So let's hope that TLT is kind to us, scan results come back good, and all that sort of stuff, and a bunch of cheapies pop up if we end up needing to trade you guys out. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us this week. I'm Scoop. This is Mr. Charity. Thanks for sticking around this long. If you had, it's been a bit of a long one, probably shorter from now on, but I mean, we're just excited for footy to be back, even though it was a bit of a down around. We'll catch you on the next one and catch the Supercoach Hub next time on the Wednesday pod for TLT for round 2. Jump in the Discord in the description if you want to get live feedback on all of your trade decisions. And yeah, have fun.
Peace. Let this week be over.